events that have to take place, and there is still even a time when the day and hour of Christ's second coming will be given to the faithful. Did we know that? Yeah, but we have to make it there, though, in order to hear that promise.
Hello everyone, my name is Grace Egbo, and today I have Tanya Beeman here, who has some important information which I believe every Seventh-day Adventist should know. And basically what this recording is about is regarding an ongoing court case that is going on with the Ellen White estate and a group who call themselves the SD Anonymous. And what happened is that they published some of Ellen White's writings, unpublished writings, to the public domain. And because of this, the White estate has now taken them to court. Now, Tanya has been following the case in a very detailed manner. She has some important information which she wants to share with you. So, over to you, Tanya.
Thank you, Grace. Well, I stumbled over this information about a couple of weeks ago, towards the end of August, from Adventist News Bulletin. I believe that Adventist News Network, they send you updates on their newsletters, and one of them was stating about the fact that Ellen White estate was taken to court, this man Brandon Knudsen, due to the fact that he had stolen the unpublished Ellen White letters and manuscripts. Since I have been a diligent student, I have to say, since 2008 of prophecy, I have been reading quite a bit of her writings, and it really interests me. And plus, about 2 years ago, I had been pleading with the Lord that if the Lord has more light for His people to know, that He would allow us to have access to these writings, since they were not really, I couldn't access them. I don't live close to Loma, I don't live close to Andrews or to Michigan area. And so to see the fact that the Lord was unveiling this, it really caught my eye. So I started investigating, trying to figure out what's really going on, and I was able to gather some information about what was really happening. Come to find out that this group, SD Anonymous, had actually placed out some books for sale, which I actually purchased them, not knowing who they were, but by faith I said, Lord, if you have something out there, I'm willing to test and read to find out what it is. So after recognizing that, I tried to let other people know, to warn them, listen, we need to pray. Something is happening. God's people need to be awakened to recognize that something is happening. We're in a warfare. And what was brought back to my mind, it was that during the 1500s, Martin Luther time, the Dark Ages, Martin Luther had to really sneak around in order for him to be able to translate the Bible, to get it out into the hands of the people, and also other followers that worked with him and besides him. And I thought, well, Lord, in our time, we know that we are the Church of Laodicea, and in the Church of Laodicea, the experience of all the other churches will fulfill, and this will include also the history of Martin Luther. And I thought, but we already have the Bible in our hands, but what are we missing? We only have part of the spirit of prophecy. And most of the students that are actually diligently studying the spirit of prophecy, as you go to the CD-ROM and you start researching out, you're going to recognize that a lot of the writings have been, copied, like paragraph from one place and placed in another, and taken out of context, taken out of chronological order. So it's really hard to detect exactly the situation that was occurring, and to what situation Sister White was giving advice and counsel. And so as I kept searching and digging, the Lord really kind of revealed to my mind that we have to plead with Him. As I was searching for these truths, about a year and a half ago, there was a study done on the desolation of Israel. And in this situation, in these studies we were actually dealing with what really happened right after Sister White died. 1915 was when she passed away, but 2 years prior to her death, she had finally made her final will. And one of the books that actually reveals this information is called The Struggle for the Prophetic Heritage by Valentine. Gilbert and Valentine was actually published in Thailand. It's not an easy book to find, but it's still available. It can be made available. I think you have to purchase it either through Australia. A brother sent me a site where you can get it, but it's in Spanish. So through this book, we were able to understand the occurrence, what really happened. Even though this man, when he's describing this history, he's pointing out, like, it was a good thing that they took over the Ellen White estate, because they needed to take control over, because a lot of things were written against our presidents. And so in order to keep away the shame that would bring upon the church from the world, we have to take away these documents and make sure that the people don't get a hold of them. And so in this struggle, and this book actually shows this struggle. And the interesting part is when you get to the Ellen White will, right at the beginning of the will, it says, "In the name of God, Amen." And in this will, she basically takes care of all the issue. By the time the Sister White had died, she had put herself in debt about $86,000 or somewhere in there amount of money, just to help the church grow, to establish new schools, new medical places. And yet, God's people weren't able to see that. All they could see is like, oh, she left us with a lot of debt. How are we going to take care of it? But she left in place in her will how she wanted to take care of it. But when you get to read this book, you recognize that her will was not taken in consideration. Actually, 2 months prior to her death, A.G. Daniels, with another brother, had taken counseling to figure out how they're going to be able to handle the situation. And after she died, I think within 6 weeks, they had a meeting in Loma Linda, and they told William White not to come, that he was not needed.
This is William White's her son, right?
Yeah, William White was actually her son that was helping her quite a bit after her husband passed away.
Okay.
Willie White had no idea what was happening, but at this meeting, basically, the General Conference tried to figure out how much money she had owned, how much money she was worth, and they took it upon themselves to take on her debt in order to pay it off.
Ellen White didn't want that, did she?
No, she didn't.
She made that clear in her will.
She very, very clear how they were supposed to pay off the debt that she had acquired during her lifetime. But they didn't take that in consideration. They didn't even ask Willie whether he was willing to let them do that. And Willie White did not even find out till I think a month and a half later. And when he found out, he was so astonished. He said that he was left without words. From gathering from the information from this book, I kind of gathered that this man, Willie White, kind of had a soft character. He was a pleaser. And A.G. Daniel makes a comment like, just give Willie some time. Just give him some time to settle, and eventually he will give in. And he does. Each time, it's like Willie seems to like, oh, well, yeah, I was wrong. Maybe this would be better. And so he eventually gives in. So Willie White, really, the way I see him, he was a pleaser. He wanted to do what it was right. And he wanted it to be obedient to his leaders. And in some ways, it kind of reminds me of William Miller, the way he was, persuaded by a close friend of him not to accept the midnight ride and all these other things, and eventually he gave up that understanding. So it's interesting how history kind of repeats itself. Now, going back to the lawsuit that's happening right now, the people that SDN Anonymous, actually, they're not the one who are being taken to court. I want to clarify that. The Brandon Knudsen is actually the public face for this group that they call themselves SDN Anonymous. He came on board sometime this year, from my understanding, from the information that I've gathered. And he is the only one that actually is not Seventh-day Adventist. But he had also tried to pursue to get into the vault of Sister White for about 6 years. He's some sort of theologian, and he does a lot of research on theology. And so for 6 years, been trying to get into the vault, I believe, in Australia, but yet they would not allow him. I don't know if he didn't qualify to whatever requirements.
And this vault, it contains all of Ellen White's writings, right?
Yes, the vault.
And it's been taken away.
Yes. And so he must have stumbled over this group since he was so interested. He said that he was willing to be their public face, meaning that he was going to take all the work that they've done, because the SD Anonymous has been doing this for almost a decade.
And SD Anonymous, these are just a group of Adventists, right?
From what they explained, there are several dozen of people that represent 13 different nationalities from the major continents of the world. And they're basically specifying that they're people that are actually Seventh-day Adventists, members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Some of them are actually work for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Some of them are lay people. Some of them are students. It's a variety of different people, but they've never actually given their identity yet. But these people came together as a little tiny group, wanting to pursue to bring these writings to the people. They were seeking more transparency from the general office, from our leaders, for people to know their heritage, to understand who we are, why are we here today, and what is our purpose. And so as they got together, they started bringing stuff that they were able to acquire from the vault. So that's telling you that they had access to the vault. So most likely they didn't work for the Ellen White estate, but they probably did this, quietly without really letting other people know. And so even though they were struggling, they were doing this for quite a while, it was hard to acquire. Their work was kind of slow.
Yeah.
So when this man, Brandon Natson, came into their ranks,
Yeah.
he offered to be a little more aggressive about it.
Yeah.
And I believe was told that there was one person that actually worked for the Illinois Estate, and he was the one who pointed out the back door that they could access it in order to get all the unreleased manuscripts and letters.
Yeah.
And so then Natson, that's exactly what he did. He pursued the back door, and I guess he did have to get through some sort of combination to get through. And he was able to get through, and I guess he had he retrieved it all. And so far what they have read released, there's 4 books, Letters Volume number 1 and number 2, and he takes you from 1845 to 1863 in a chronological order. It releases what has been released and what it hasn't been released. So the gray font shows you what has been released, and the black font shows you what it has not been released.
These are some of them, right? The manuscripts.
Yes.
These are the hard copies, but they are available in PDF, so we can email you if you want a copy of these. And as Tanya says, it's the hard copies are the ones that haven't been released, right? The ones in bold.
Right.
Yep. But we'll send those over to you if you want a copy of them. Yep.
Actually, when they've released this first, when I first purchased it, in order for you to even open the PDF file, you had to have a code.
Okay.
You weren't able to copy and paste it wherever to print it.
Yeah.
And at first I kind of questioned, why is such a secrecy about it? How am I supposed to use this in my work if I want to relate, other things to others? But they reassured me that if that was the case, that they were willing to let me have it. Yeah. But then we had a young man that was willing to help us out, and he broke the code. But I'm also finding out that other people have done it. So the Lord is opening the door, and so this is something printed material that I printed myself. Yeah. They were never available in a hard copy. Yeah. Only in a PDF file.
But you can print them once you've got the PDF file.
Once you got them, yes. And I'll be honest, when you start reading them, and according to their information, saying that more than 50% of her writing, of the letters and the manuscript, more than 50% has not been released. Wow. Which is really scary, because you're thinking you've got so much material, but yet more than 50% hasn't been released. Yeah. So then, my mind is like, well then, how do I know what is being held back? And so my desire is like, Lord, please let your people have the word that you have written for admonition for this time. So this is where I'm at. I'm trying to making sure that people are aware of that. Yeah. Okay, so for those that would like to get deeper into this history that is relating to Sister White and what was really going on with the General Conference and their leaders, there is this book called The Starling Omega and Its True Genealogy, and an open letter to A.G. Daniels, an appeal to the General Conference, written by J.S. Washburn. And actually what it's in there, it's actually 3 letters that J.S. Washburn had written out. Who was J.S. Washburn? He was I call it one of the pioneers that actually knew Sister White. He was very close to Sister White, and the way I can relate this is that we know that Brother Uriah Smith had some issues, and Sister White kind of wrote some really strong letters to him. Well, when Uriah Smith repented and came back, Sister White wrote a letter to J.S. Washburn to let him know that Brother Uriah Smith had repented, that and that he's once again back with the fold. J.S. Washburn was a brother that really believed that Sister White was given the prophetic message, that she was a true prophet of the Lord. She stood by her, and she fought for her writings and for what she had written. And so he had written some letters to A.G. Daniels and also to Prescott, questioning them on what they were doing. And actually J.S. Washburn grew up with A.G. Daniels, so they knew each other quite very well. Yeah, so in this history, it kind of relates the time where A.G. Daniel was starting to apostatize and not wanting to be obedient to what the Word had said, what the Lord had said through Sister White. And the reason I point to this book is because in this other book, The Struggle for the Prophetic Heritage, Gilbert M. Valentine makes him look like he was what's the word I'm looking for? Someone that has apostatized. He was a rebel. They call him a rebel. And so I just want to point out that from the view of this man, according to the history, it proves otherwise. And so you kind of have to connect this. And there's another book that actually it makes reference in here, only by name, that was written by Leroy Froome. and it's called the Prophetic Heritage. I can't think of it now, but I'm going to look it up. I'll give it to you a little bit later. Finding the Lost Prophetic Witness. Okay, it's Finding the Lost Prophetic Witness by Leroy Froome. And in this little tiny letter, it's kind of a little booklet like this. Leroy Froome gives an account of his response to the call from President Watson. This is during the time of 1930s. There were a lot of accusations that came against Sister White, and by Camrati and other people like him that did not believe in Sister White. And the Ellen White estate wanted her to respond to these men, saying like, no, we have the truth, look what she was shown. But Watson did not want him to respond to it, and they placed Leroy Froome and sent him out to gather all the information that he could gather that happened during William Miller time. And in this book, Leroy Froome portrays how he was convicted that God really has led in this movement, because he was able to gather information from all over the European division right before the World War II, that actually after World War II, many of the libraries and institutions that he had gathered the information had been destroyed, and the information along with it. Also in the United States, when he was trying to gather information, he had found out from the person that he was inquiring information that there was another little man with a kind of a European accent, and come to find out that was Camrati. Camrati was running ahead of him, trying to gather information that would help him to prove the point that Sister White was a false prophet. But the Lord did not allow him to receive this information. But Leroy Froome was able to gather everything. And in this little booklet also shows us that Ellen White Estate has all of this information in the vault, along with the writing of Sister White. And according to what as the Anonymous is telling us, is that Sister White's writing had become public domain since January 1st, 2003. And it was interesting information that I've heard that somewhere between 1995 and 2001, the Ellen White Estate had come to the conclusion that they were going to go ahead and release all the unpublished writing. And so between 1995 and 2001, they had started working on a CD-ROM, kind of like what we have right now. And they were getting ready to release it in 2002. But here comes year 2002, and they decide not to do it. Now, they don't never give an explanation why. The only thing now in my mind, since we that are on present truth, we understand the meaning of 1989, the fulfillment of Daniel 11:40 second part. We also understand September 11, 2001 as being the fulfillment of Revelation 18:1-3, which we're understanding that the latter rain has started to sprinkle. And so I know that in the United States, a lot of things were happening. People were being stirred up. A lot of people were calling the conference office, the Ellen White Estate, wanting to know a lot of things about her writing. And so I'm assuming now, it could be a presumption from me, but I'm assuming that maybe because of that occasion, the Ellen White Estate says maybe we're not going to go and release this because of the fact of what happened in 2001. And I don't know if you are aware of it, but I have a brother that had witnessed this right after 9/11. A lot of the leaders of the other Protestant churches or the other evangelical came in contact with our leaders, requesting to know if Sister White had anything to if she had written anything on the account of New York, if she's had any vision about New York. And from my understanding, from what he said, they said no. So right there is telling you that they were stepping away. They did not want to have anything to do with 9/11. And they didn't want to portray what Sister actually points out in Volume 9 testimony, starting page 11, which is actually we're actually
she saw in New York.
Exactly, the vision of New York that actually happened exactly to the way it fulfilled in September 11, 2001 on New York. So my request is, and my desire is for God's people, Seventh-day Adventists, because we know that we're God's denominated people. It is time for us to awaken. It is time for us to plead with the Lord, to fast and to pray as never before, that the Lord would release these writings. That way we may understand, recognize where we have defaulted, where we have strayed away. That God's people may be able to put their life right, because we know that we are in the judgment of the living. My case, your case, anybody's case could be coming up to the Lord, and we have to be found right with Him. And I really believe that the Lord did not waste the life of Sister White to write all those writings. That way they'd be hidden away in some darkness.
Yeah, exactly.
Just about 3 weeks ago, I was in Ellen White Estate in California. I'm going to the tour again, going to their one picture of Sister White that is there with a bunch of other people, and this is just a few years before she died. You look at her finger, it's actually bent. It's bent from writing so much.
Yeah.
And that finger was bent for you and me. That way we may recognize, that way we may take awareness of what we're in, because she says, the Lord pointed out to us that we are on enchanted ground. That means that we don't know where or from what the enemy is going to hit us or destroy us or even deceive us, that we may fall. So all I'm saying is that those that are interested, those that are recognizing the needs, pass on the word, sound the trumpet, let the people know what's happening. And also there is a post where you can actually write an email to the Ellen White Estate, relating your thoughts, your feelings on this matter, requesting for them that it's time for them to release. Because we really believe the time is at hand. The only thing that is waiting for us right now is Sunday law. And we know that it's coming, and it will be coming suddenly upon all of us.
Thank you, Tanya, for giving us this interview, and I hope you all can see how important this is. I mean, when we look at what took place in the Dark Ages, how the Bible was hid, Tanya mentioned that, and how the Reformers fought tooth and nail to bring the Bible back to the common people. And it saddens me to see how the leadership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is performing the same work as the papacy in terms of hiding the writings which God has given to his people to make them wise unto salvation. And I thank God that some of these writings have been released, and if you need a copy of them, please contact any one of us. But also we ask that you pray regarding the situation, that the Lord will work on behalf of his people. And I pray that many of us, all of you watching this here, would understand and recognize the times that we're in. As Tanya mentioned, the next event is the Sunday law, and when the Sunday law comes, probation is closed. The greatest crisis is upon us, and we need to be ready. And everything she's saying is so important about these writings and how it must be released to the people. So I thank you for watching this video, and please continue to pray for us.